Welcome everyone to the PA Partnership System of Care County Collaborative for September. This month we are highlighting System of Care in Erie, and to do that we have Nicole Wells, who is the Project Director of System of Care in Erie. So Nicole.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamal. Hello, everyone. We'll start with objectives. So next slide, please. Today, I'm going to talk to you about our system of care structure and the partnerships and initiatives that we have in Erie County with a particular focus on the youth and family and trauma work that we're doing here in Erie. Next slide. So first, I'd like to introduce you to our team here, skeleton crew, as some of you may be familiar with. Some members aren't posted here in this picture, but they still deserve recognition. So our grant operates with a full-time project director, which is myself, a lead family contact, Tracy Palazzotto, Renee Jabison, who is one of our 2 youth task leads, and then not pictured is Lexi Adamsack and Melissa Bible. Next slide. I thought it might be helpful for us to start with how we determined our goals for this grant. So in anticipation for the grant, we conducted a needs assessment, and that identified several critical challenges that Erie's faced with. Some of those challenges that we determined were high rates of poverty in our county. The current services don't always meet the intense mental health needs of the youth. Drug use, we have housing issues, especially the transitional age youth or young adults. We have significant changes within our Erie City School District at the time of the assessment was done. Some of our schools increased the support to address the risk of bullying and social media use. And then teens and young adults need access to wholesome community activities. And we have a high refugee and immigrant population here in Erie. So there was a gap in understanding the new American culture. And we also recognized that we had a need for peer support, especially with males. And so from these critical challenges emerged the 5 goals that you see here listed on the screen. And they're identical to our counterparts in Luzerne, but the way that we go about carrying out and achieving these goals is quite different. So we'll go to the next slide, please. With consideration to some of these challenges and the needs that we identified, Erie chose the target population of those who are at risk of mental illness or which includes the adults ages 14 through 26. So, or involved with Office of Children and Youth, juvenile alcohol services. But just to note that our grant does service birth through 26.
How do I exit?
Next slide. So how do we accomplish such lofty goals? Much like other system of care communities, we created a governance structure, which included a governance committee, a county leadership team, and then the 4 subcommittees, which you see here. So the subcommittees really seek advice and counsel from our county leadership team, and any final proposals or requests for system of care funding are then voted on by our governance committee, which is made up of equal parts system partners, youth, and family members. So just to highlight some of the things that our subcommittees are doing, I think the Training and Workforce Development Subcommittee has been able to host an LGBTQIA training. We were able to sponsor 20 professionals to attend a 6-hour workshop on working with transgender clients. And then we're able to host youth mental health first aid trainings. The Social Marketing Subcommittee is really tasked with planning any of the events. So Children's Mental Health Awareness Day that happens each spring. They also develop messaging for our social media, our website, which I encourage all of you guys to check out because it's pretty epic, www.systemofcareerie.org. And then we have the Diversity and Cultural and Linguistic Competency Work Group, and I'll talk more about them a little bit later when I discuss our trauma work, but one really cool thing that just recently happened with this group is that we've been able to put together an ad hoc committee to develop a universal informed consent to treat form across mental health providers. And when we had, then we worked with a local translation agency, and we had them translated into the top 5 languages that are spoken in Erie County. So reminder that we have a big immigrant and new American population here. And so we realized that maybe we weren't doing them justice when explaining services that would be available to them in the county or kind of what forms they're signing and what that means for them. So we were able to translate a universal consent to form treat in 5 languages, but we didn't just stop there. We realized that there might be a language barrier or maybe even those who have a lower reading level. So we are, hopefully by the end of the month, we will have interpreters on video who are explaining client rights and responsibilities, an overview of what HIPAA means and the need for releases of information to be signed, and also what client grievance procedures are. And we're hoping that these videos will help us bridge the gap with those new American populations and better understand services and supports and rights that they have when accessing service and supports in the county. These websites will be housed on our website and accessible anywhere in the community that you have internet access. They'll be linked to YouTube. So hopefully by mid-October, those will be loaded up, and we encourage anyone who might find those helpful to kind of take a look at them. Last, we have the Evaluation and Policy Planning Subcommittee, which does exactly what it seems. They utilize the data that we collect through UPMC and the surveys that we do locally to influence policy changes. Like, for example, considering the addition of language to work statements that would reflect more of the system of care principles and values. Next slide. Partnerships. We couldn't do what we do and have such a large impact on the greater community without the support of our many partners. So you see just a few of those listed on the screen. For example, Stairways Behavioral Health has partnered with us to train staff in the TIP model, which is a way of working with young adults. Gannon University hosts an annual Children's Mental Health Awareness Day events free of charge for us. The local intermediate unit partners with us in our family group to host learning experiences for educators and parents. They also participate in our trauma coalition work and our county leadership team. And then Bethesda and Family Services provide our independent living services. We did something unique. It's typically only accessible to children who are involved with the Office of Children and Youth and juvenile probation. But what we did with our grant funding is we opened that up to mental health only consumers. And they've also been a big support in helping us with our engagement efforts of young adults. Safe Harbor Behavioral Health of UPMC is who hosts our first episode psychosis program. And they've also partnered with us to provide something called Safe Talk training to community members. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Safe Talk, it's an evidence-based curriculum for suicide prevention. And every year for the past 6 years, we've partnered with Crawford County and the Edinboro University to host an annual trauma conference that attracts about 350 individuals for an all-day learning experience. And we've also we're proud to say that we have a lot of youth and family members who are presenting at those conferences each year. I think most recently we've added an additional partner who you don't see here, and that is the Erie Family Center. And this partnership was part of our sustainability plan for our family initiative. And so the agency absorbed our lead family contact position and the family members associated with that group to help us grow the family work throughout the county. The Erie Family Center has also agreed to take over our respite planning and to expand evidence-based curriculums that are provided to caregivers. And for example, last week we trained 16 staff/family members to be facilitators of ACT. And ACT is a violence prevention curriculum that's been developed by the American Psychological Association, and it's designed to teach caregivers how to be positive role models of healthy coping and problem solving and effective emotional management and communication. It also teaches them things like social media and internet monitoring and basic child development. So we look forward to being able to roll that out soon. I just think, just to sum up this slide here, system of care is really about bringing people together and breaking down barriers to create uniformity and accessibility to services and supports. And so we really prioritize forming relationships with various providers and community initiatives, if and when they're willing. Next slide. So some of our system of care initiatives you see here. The Youth Impact Committee is our youth group. We have the Erie Family Alliance. They just recently changed their name. And then we also have the Open Table Initiative. So just to give you a little insight about what those look like in our county, the Youth Impact Committee was formed in November of 2017. We had the goal of bringing together young adults to have a more unified voice and a say in what changes or enhancements occur within the system that serves them. So likewise, in December of 2017, we formed what is now the Erie Family Alliance, which is just a group of parents and caregivers who have lived experience raising a child with mental health and behavioral health challenges. As if these weren't like enough moving parts to get up and off the ground running all at the same time, we decided to use a faith-based model called the Open Table to pilot it as a way to support our transition age population. So for those of you who don't know, Open Table is a poverty transformation model that really brings together volunteers who are willing to meet with young adults who are aging out of the foster care system each week for 1 hour for the duration of 1 year. It's a relational model, so the theory is that young adults that are served are more likely to become self-sustained in a natural support system. So you kind of create that support system with these volunteers. And here, the way we kind of landed on that is serving that population is on average about 20 young adults age out of our foster care system every year. So without their support of people who are willing to step up and volunteer or a stable family or friend group, they're likely to fall victim to poverty. So this was just one of our ways of offering support to our transition age population. And the model has also, been rolled out in other system of care communities as a means to reduce poverty and build positive relationships and connectedness to the community, which we'll talk about in a little bit as a protective factor for trauma. What else? So our Open Table initiative started in Erie in June of 2018. We were a little bit ambitious, and we set a goal of launching 10 tables in the first year. We did not reach that goal, but we do have 4 tables serving 4 young adults, and we have 21 volunteers involved in the Open Table process, and we have 2 faith-based institutions who are licensed here. Our Open Table is unique. We were the first county to say that we really wanted to have a governing body around this Open Table initiative so that the fire would continue to burn and we could continue to recruit and support table members and volunteers. And so what Erie did is we formed a convening table. The convening table meets once a month for an hour or two just to kind of continue to explore ways to market Open Table, how to vet youth, how to gain referrals, how to continue to grow in licensed congregations and that sort of thing. Next slide. So I want to share a little bit more about what our Youth Impact Committee does. For the past 2 years, we've had a youth support that our youth group has supported us in hosting art contests for our Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. The first year, groups of youth and young adults created puzzle pieces based on their perspective of what trauma was and mental health stigma. But just last year, we had youth submit drawings to be used for T-shirt designs and posters at our mental health awareness events and walk. So that was pretty cool to see some of their creativity come to life. We also had a young man who shared his lived experience with anxiety and depression at our main event. So having more youth step forward and kind of share their personal lived experience has been great. On Global Youth Service Day, you see the T-shirt here on the right. That's a T-shirt design. We made 250 bagged lunches for our soup kitchen. That was a hot peanut buttery mess, but the soup kitchen and the youth really enjoyed it. So that was fun to see them kind of gather around that. And they helped plan the Erie's first ever youth summit that you see the symbol right there. And that is a summit that was meant to support the LGBTQA youth and those who aid them. And it was also an opportunity that our youth used to engage with other youth by hosting a resource table there. I think their biggest accomplishment to date is really their partnership with a local hospital here, where they've been able to host weekly support groups on the inpatient units for young adults ages 14 through 26. And so they continue to do that every Thursday. Next slide. So if we shift gears a little bit and we talk about our parents and our caregivers, the Erie Family Alliance, formerly known as the Family Caregiver Alliance, has found a permanent home with our Erie Family Center, as I mentioned. The center really focuses on providing evidence-based curriculum and supports like strengthening families to caregivers, typically referred by the Office of Children and Youth. I think our group has really been hosting biweekly support groups at the same hospital that the youth pushed into, and they continue to have monthly alliance meetings to just kind of fine-tune their strategy of family engagement throughout the county. They've participated in our Let's Talk About It sessions, which I'll talk about in a little bit, by providing personal testimony, which has been really powerful and engaging. The group does community outreach. They've hosted resource tables at things like the Convoy of Hope, which is a back-to-school event, National Night Out, the Trauma Summit. Be Kind to Your Mind was a school event that they did, and then just various other community events that they are welcome to. I think the Alliance really strives to educate other caregivers by hosting trainings like Team Up for Families or the Agents of Transformation. They also continue to educate themselves on how to receive various trainings that might help caregivers to better understand how the mental health system works in our county, and also how to navigate it to get the help that they want for their family. Next slide. Since trauma-informed systems is our grant goal 3, we've partnered with and sponsored much of our Erie Coalition for a Trauma-Informed Community. We've been able to provide them with quite a bit of system of care dollars to build an infrastructure around the coalition and really kind of fine-tune what they've been offering to the community. So ECTIC, in short, as we call it, was co-founded and is code-led by 2 local nonprofit agencies, and this kind of was established about 3 years ago. The coalition is really open to anyone, concerned citizens, individuals representing faith-based organizations, service providers, businesses, schools, really anybody in the community. The coalition operates under the belief that trauma has a profound impact on the individual and the community, and that we don't heal in isolation. So we believe that together we can build a solid foundation where our residents can really overcome whatever's happened to them in the past in order to be able to thrive in the present, and then face uncertainties in the future with a sense of confidence, knowing that they're more socially connected and they have more of the protective factors in place. I think our coalition uses 5 work groups to focus their efforts really on prevention and awareness, research, training, resources and support dissemination, and then diverse population engagement. And the 5 work groups typically meet once a month for about an hour. They all report back to the executive committee of the coalition for any type of, funding requests or permission to proceed, or updates that they might have that they might want to give out at one of the 2 community meetings that we host. So we really thought it was important as a coalition to hold ourselves accountable. And the way that we did that is we thought, most nonprofit agencies have to have an annual meeting where they're reporting out. So why not have 2 community meetings that serve as a report out and accountability measure to the community, but also as a means to inform people about what the coalition is doing and to receive feedback. And so oftentimes at our community meetings, we'll have things like focus groups, where participants are able to, provide feedback and insight on how they think that ECTIC should proceed in order to meet the community's needs better. I think what you see on your screen right now is the top 3 priorities that ECTIC is focused on right now. So 1, they want to raise general public awareness about the impacts of trauma on individuals and on communities. 2, we want trauma-informed education to any group or organization who requests it. And 3, the third priority is just really developing a sustainability plan for the coalition's efforts so that whatever kind of effort and things that we put into place now will remain in the future. So in terms of partnerships, we believe in working smarter and not harder. And this is why we pride ourselves on having over 7 partnering agencies represented on our executive committee alone. And then the coalition really is just that, where it's a welcoming body of people and anybody can jump in at any time to be a participant on any one of our work groups, community meetings, things like that. I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. Just last year, we launched a countywide trauma awareness campaign. So what we did was we really wanted to focus on shifting people's perspective from what's wrong with you to what's happened to you. And so we used the messaging, see more. And we just really wanted to encourage people to keep an open mind that everyone has a story and that we don't really know all of the pieces. So we launched billboards, brochures, and we even made a nice little informational video, which you can check out on the trauma website, which you see on your screen, www.traumainformederie.org, or you can follow them on Facebook. The website also has various trauma resources, and our research work group put together a white paper, and that's all there for you to see and download. Next slide. Just a little bit more about the coalition work from ECTIC. The diversity work group has really been focusing on establishing relationships and connections with the faith-based communities because we realized that this is where people go first when they're facing challenges or tragedies. For example, Erie just experienced a horrific loss with a house fire in which 5 small children all passed away. It was a in-home daycare center. And the first thing that the community did was go to the church. They needed resources. They needed support. They needed understanding. They needed a sense of connectedness and encouragement to keep moving forward after something so horrific had happened. And so we realized that we kind of had a major communication gap in reaching people through our trauma awareness campaign, that we weren't really creating a message that connects with those who might need it most. And so we've been working to engage with various faith communities to learn a little bit more about the impacts of trauma on their specific congregations, as well as what protective factors that church community can put in place. And then next, we look for ways that we want to partner or collaborate in order to share resources with them. I already mentioned Open Table before, but it is just another way that we've been working to engage our faith-based organizations here. And right now we have a strong drive for our faith community to kind of be more action-oriented, boots on the ground in our community. And so we really do have a lot of social capital that we want to utilize to support anybody who's in need, but specifically looking at ways to support our transition age youth. Every year we have a group of Erie Christian business leaders who sponsor a prayer breakfast. It's actually coming up this Friday. And at that breakfast, they have a keynote speaker. And traditionally, the keynote speaker is brought in to kind of preface one of their new initiatives. And last year they had a man by the name of Mark Harris come in who talked about the Light of the City, which is an initiative in Tucson, Arizona, where they were working to transfer all of the policies and practices of the city over to biblical scripture or Christian-based practices. And so our faith-based community here, our Christian faith-based community here, really took a liking to that. And so they flew to Tucson, Arizona for a 2-week process, and they were learning kind of how to implement this. And one thing that it was interesting about what they were talking about is there's this thing called a care portal where faith communities purchase this database, and if they get donations or they have a grandma who might want to babysit or a mechanic who might want to be willing to fix somebody's car, they're able to put that into the database. And then social service agencies or workers are then able to go and essentially Google what a family they're working with may need, and then go to that faith community and get that resource. And so that's just one other way that our faith community is looking at how can they take a more active role within our community. Next slide. So perhaps our biggest success and the bulk of some of our time spent over the last year has been on educating others on mental health and the impact that it has on individuals, just really in an effort to decrease the stigma around it and to get people talking. We also wanted to raise awareness about the various resources that exist throughout Erie County. We are very fortunate here. We are highly saturated with services and supports. You name it, we pretty much have it here. So we really wanted to make sure that we were doing due diligence and that folks were aware of how many resources really exist throughout the county. The pictures that you see here are from our Let's Talk About It sessions and our Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. Our Let's Talk About It was a campaign that launched 2 springs ago. Really wanted to educate the community about the basic signs, symptoms, and statistics of mental illness in Erie County, but really just had the hope of decreasing stigma associated with mental illness and increasing the likelihood that individuals would seek treatment sooner. And what I learned from that firsthand was people don't, you shouldn't assume anything. I thought I was presenting very basic mental health signs, symptoms, statistics, and what we found was that people had no idea. And so never underestimate the power of presenting the basics. And when we presented at all of these events, I like to stay true to the systemic care principles and values. And so I say I travel with an entourage because mental health doesn't discriminate. And so having several faces there, several perspectives is always great. So we travel with a youth consumer who provides personal testimony as well as a caregiver. And we found that this approach has been really effective in kind of driving home the message. Next slide. This is just something I put together on how we measure success. These aren't our grant indicators or anything like that, but just, if you had to say what I would want to see out of all of this hard work, it would obviously be increased numbers of caregivers that we've trained who are serving in a leadership role. And so what I mean by that is not only educating caregivers who exist within the community who might need or be accessing services and supports, but also those caregivers who are ready to take on more of a leadership role, who might just need to kind of fine tune some of their professional development skills or, public speaking skills or advocacy skills, and just really coming alongside of them to support them and how do they achieve their goals. I think I'd also like to see an increased number of young adults trained and serving in leadership roles. And so this has been one of our major challenges with the youth. Our family initiative, although we talk about the great things that they've accomplished, we have historically struggled in Erie County with youth and family engagement. It just seems really hard to reach the people, to get the message across. To recruit them and then to ask them to add something else to their already full plate. So it's been a challenge for us here to really be able to identify specifically youth who are far enough along in their own journeys where they are ready and have the capacity for learning and skill development where they can serve in a leadership role. We'd also like to have our family group kind of be the source of, the point of contact for any of our nonprofit organizations who might seek to add a youth or a family member to their board or to an advisory committee. And so forming those linkages is really important for us. And so when we do presentations in the community, we're always encouraging people, hey, if you need this, here's who to contact for it. And here's, kind of our thoughts on how this could improve your overall functioning of your agency and the policies and procedures that drive it, as well as the behavioral health outcomes from the services and the supports that you deliver. Furthermore, I'd like to see an increase in workforce capacity and training that would meet the diverse needs of our population served. We have, like I said, such a large new American population that it's really hard to educate the workforce on all of their cultural beliefs and some of the barriers that might exist with engaging them in treatment and services. And so just really trying to build our workforce capacity to better serve or more consistently serve those unique needs, I think would be really important to us here. We would love to see peer support partners emerge, specifically family support partners. I'm not sure about any of you, but we have struggled with this. It's really difficult for our agencies to sustain a program like that, obviously because it has its own unique needs with the ability for the workers to have their own FMLA to meet their own mental health needs. And so you can't really operate a program on inconsistent, money in and money out. And so we've struggled with that here. But I would love to see that stay because, it's a true unique system of care principle. And then lastly, I have here just increasing community partnerships and gaining stakeholder buy-in. Just with anything, we have people in positions that turn over, and so you're constantly re-educating people and bringing them up to speed. It would be wonderful if we could have everybody in the community kind of embrace this philosophy of nothing about us without us and coming alongside youth and family members. But we understand that that's going to take a lot of work to kind of get to our end game goal. And so those are just some of the things that I was thinking would be like ultimate success. But of course, we do have our own performance indicators that are measured by our SAMHSA. I think I talk really fast because I don't think I have any more slides. Yeah, if you switch the last one, it's just left time for any kind of questions or comments that anybody might have.
Yeah, I was going to leave that one to let the suspense sit there for how long you were going to have. Thank you, Nicole. This is, not again, but for the first time, this is Mark Durgan, the Project Director for the Continuing Care Partnership. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think there was and I'll invite anybody that has a question to please let us know, and you can unmute yourself and mention it. I think one of the things that I thought has really been one of the great successes with Erie, in my opinion, has really been that business group, that faith business group. Because I think that really helped, solidify some of the work that System of Care has been doing in the community, to also look more towards that sustainability piece. As they've been there before, they could see what System of Care is now, and then kind of maybe even envision for what that might be in the future. Good interpretation, challenging one.
Are you asking if any of that was challenging? I'm sorry, it was a little muffled for us.
Oh, sorry, it might be this headset. I'll change it out. I guess my question or my thought was that business piece that you were able to connect with, that is really going to help build, I think, sustainability for some of the long-term System of Care goals.
Yeah, I don't know about all of it, but it definitely gave us a leg up with the Open Table Initiative. They had John Katoff come and present at their prayer breakfast 3 years ago. And then that really kind of ignited the fire within the faith community. They say was like kind of their call from God to kind of be the hands and feet and move it forward. And so, it did definitely help with our success with the Open Table model for sure. Just having an established group that was already together, already willing to meet. They did not fund it though, and they have not funded it, but they were kind of the source that we were able to gain for the convenience initiative off the ground and then to kind of broadcast it. They also had some mechanisms in place that helped us get the word out. Like, for example, we have a group called Pray Erie. They have a huge following on Facebook and on their website. And what they do is they meet at random places around Erie and they pray for the city. And so we were able to tap into their mailing sources and things to really educate folks on what Open Table was and to recruit members.
Oh, thank you. Was there any questions from anybody in the community that we have that wants to ask? We can always also put it in the chat box feature. We can always read them off. Give it a couple of minutes. It is interesting just the work that you've been doing and the fact that you're also in partnership with another county in this. So I think that's also helped hopefully build some continuing relationships and also some education on how things look different in the multiple counties. Erie is a little bit definitely different from the rest of the community around there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to say that there's a little bit of a competitive nature, almost like I'm going to finish this before you do kind of thing. But it's also been really, really collaborative in the sense that anytime there's a question, we have open dialogue about it. I've learned from them and I would hope that they have learned from us. But it really has been a great exchange. Also, too, just encouraging our youth and our family leaders to utilize each other and then pulling them together intentionally, throughout the year on various things that they can learn from one another and share skills and ideas. The collaboration has been great, pretty seamless, to be honest with you. And if anybody's really curious about how that works, essentially, we just partner together in our grant application. We share the funds from SAMHSA. We have the same grant goals, but each county was able to choose their strategic plan and how they were able to achieve those 5 goals. And that's pretty much how it goes. We also share the match, and that was one of the contributing factors to deciding to enter the grant application together, is there was a little bit of concern about the large amount of match that the grant required. We're able to share that.
Great. Well, I'm not hearing any questions, and I'm one to always try to let people have some extra time if they would like it. I think Nicole and I can stay on for a couple of minutes in case there's any sideline questions that you maybe want to talk about, and we can talk about that. But other than that, I will invite anybody that wants to do some other events to head on out. But Nicole and Erie County and Erie County System of Care, we very much appreciate the work that you're doing, and also the great presentation that really gave a good, solid overview of some of your successes. And I do encourage the group to also look at their website, systemofcareerie.org, as it's got some real good, solid information on it, and it looks to be a very artistically pleasing website, I should say. Very easy to navigate. So,
Mark, we got a question in the text box.
all right. You want to read it off while I'm trying to find it?
Not a problem. It's from Elena Dix. She said, are you specifically targeting the mental health of refugees and using people who are bilingual or have qualifications to help them?
So that's a good question. We have to utilize a lot of interpreters. So although our population that we serve is very diverse, we recognize that we don't have a very diverse workforce. So that is, luckily we have 3 agencies in Erie that provide, actually 4, that provide interpretation and translation services. And so we form great partnerships with them, and they aid us in the process of delivering services and supports to those populations. But no, we have very few bilingual staff.
And I think she followed that up with, are you partnering with any colleges to maintain student mental health? I'm not sure if that's in reference to the refugee piece, or is that just maybe a separate question about maintaining colleges. Before we get into that, I will say that one of our counties that our grant works with is Delaware, and they have had some fantastic success with a iPad and a live translation service that they use because in their one area they have 100 plus languages that's spoken. So they actually have an iPad system that can help with the translation in a live translation format. That's happening over in Delaware. But just to share, and partnering with your local college, I know you partner with them for, I think, to use for the trauma trainings that you do.
Yeah, we partner with a local, we actually, you're talking about our universities here?
I believe so, partnering with any colleges or universities to maintain students' mental health.
Right. So we have 3 universities in the area: Gannon, Mercyhurst, and Edinboro. And so a lot of the interns come from there. We've tried to, for the trauma work, tap into some students, especially when we're talking about translation services and unique messaging to different populations. So we've worked with different, foreign exchange students and things like that to help us with our trauma work, not specifically our system of care stuff. We did look at partnering with the universities around active minds groups, but what we found is that they really just kind of had their own way of doing things, and they want to keep it on campus. They weren't really interested in taking it more global throughout the county. And so when we talk about our Let's Talk About It campaign, that really was a grassroots effort for us to kind of meet with people face to face and bring the information to them and the resources to them. And that was literally just the System of Care team that kind of put that together in partnership with NAMI for one season. And then it just really took off from there. We have had great success with that. We presented for an entire district, and they came to us and said, this was so great, we'd like to expand upon it. And so what we did is we surveyed that specific school community, and we developed 3 areas of need or interest that the students and that the parents and the teachers wanted to learn more about. And so what we did then is partnered with the coalition, the Trauma Coalition, the nonprofits around here that provide mental health and behavioral health services, and we're able to develop 3 more professional development opportunities and community trainings for them. And so it really just kind of took on a life of its own, other than just kind of planting the seed and trying to stomp out stigma. And so that's how we've been able to connect with school staff and administrators on the mental health issue.
So Ms. Dixon, thank you. So also with this, we will have all of the webinar hopefully in the next couple of days with the PowerPoint PDF of that posted on our website, pacarepartnership.org, and it's under the training section, and you'll find it under the county collaborative area. Actually, you can go back there and look at some of our other webinars if you are interested. We have a variety of things from youth and young adult engagement, some information on the family peer process, as well as a variety of other topics. All right. So, Nicole, again, thank you very much for the great presentation. A lot of really good information there. And really happy to see that your Erie County is really making some great strides in community partnerships, some faith community partnerships, and also that trauma-informed piece. I think it really speaks very highly of the progressive work that you all are doing up there.
Thank you.
All right. So if I'm not hearing anything else, thank you all very much, and have a fantastic day.